Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 67 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is Sunday, February 19th, and we got lots of basketball to talk about. Girls regionals are done. Boys regionals are officially underway. Lots of quarterfinal games got played yesterday on Saturday, so we got a lot to talk about.
There's some college basketball this weekend too, Whitey.
Yeah. We'll carve out a couple minutes for that at the end, I suppose. A couple of things I wanted to do before we get into that, though. First of all, we've gotten a great response on our Ken Crawford episode.
Oh, we're almost to 500.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Hey, I didn't know Crawford had so many relatives.
We are a modest little show as far as what kind of numbers we do. So for us, 450 plus feels like a big deal. But if you're watching this and you haven't seen it yet, you need to. And if you haven't told your friends about it, do that also. It's we really like what we're doing here. We enjoy it, and so we want more and more people to see it. Not because we really stand to gain anything from it, but it's just nice to know that, it's nice to know that some people are watching. So
almost 150 subscribers now.
Yeah, and again, it's a modest thing, but compared to where we started, it's nice to have a little reach. It's to the point now where we'll get some comments on the videos from time to time, telling us, giving us some information. If we didn't know something or if we got something wrong, they'll let us know. And hey, you know what? I'm fine with that.
We appreciate viewer feedback.
Exactly, such as it was I was made aware that that St. Anthony Tuscola girls game that they played a couple weeks ago, for some reason I had it in my head that was not originally scheduled. I guess because it wasn't on St. Anthony's Max Preps page, but it was in the, if I had looked in the program that they hand out at the games with the schedule on it, it was on there.
Really?
So they've always been scheduled to play.
See, and here I rely on you for that information. Now I've learned.
So we don't get everything right. There's lots of teams to follow, so there's gonna be snafus from time to time. But also,
good for them. That was good. That was good foresight on their part to get that scheduled.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one other thing, we may have an unexpected. I may have to pause at some point in the middle of this. We got people coming over to do some sanding and mud drywall mudding downstairs, as it turns out. And so
hey, don't wait on me to start that.
If it comes down to it, I may have to pause and go down and answer a couple of questions, but hopefully it won't be too big of a deal, and hopefully there won't be too much noise in the background. But we're going to get rolling just in case. Girls regionals are finished. I think we'll start there, and we got 3 local teams still alive. Neoga won their regional, St. Anthony won their regional, and T-Town won their regional. No real surprises there. I think maybe at least in a couple of those cases, how it came about was a little surprising, just because St. Anthony played North Clay in the championship game of that North Clay regional, and it was a little more of a battle than the first time they played. North Clay really gave them a good shot and led.
Had what, 8-point lead at the half?
Yeah. Evaporated very quickly in the second half. St. Anthony came out, I think, pretty clearly bound and determined to change the momentum.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Were you doing that game on the radio?
Yes.
That evaporation of the lead, did any of it have to do with Stacy Vonderheim?
Well,
usually defensively, she just says, okay, I'm going to take this ball from you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I would actually tell you that the defensive effort in that game, and St. Anthony won it by 13, by the way. So they did widen it out a little bit, but again, trailed at halftime. I would actually, if I had to talk about somebody's defense that was the most important, I would probably go Anna Faber first.
Okay.
Because St. Anthony played their 1-3-1 in the half court in the first half, and North Clay pretty clearly had an idea of how they wanted to attack it. And in the second half, Aaron's, and I wasn't sure about it, but he mentioned it on the post-game show, mostly because I kind of told Greg I'd like for him to ask about it, but I thought that they were doing something a little different. And they had a box and one on the Ballard girl from North Clay, and Anna Faber
Mhm.
was the one, right?
Okay,
She was doing and it. I mean, Ballard was part of the reason why North Clay pulled away a little bit in the second quarter, and as that game went on, I just thought that North Clay was kind of waiting for her to do it again. You know, the other kids were sort of waiting for her to do it again, but she
right,
couldn't, right? Because she was being face guarded. So,
right.
that's it's just a good adjustment on St. Anthony's part, and I think effort wise, and that's not to say they were dogging it in the first half. I don't want that to be misconstrued here, but I do think that they came out in the second half and redoubled the efforts.
A little more determined. Okay,
Yeah, I'm guessing somebody in the locker room probably said, "Hey, we started this postseason thinking about wanting to play in a super sectional on our home floor, and we're 16 minutes away from getting dumped in the regional finals. So we need to dig deep and find something." And they did. They played a great second half, and the Ruhal girl, Nancy Ruhal, had a great second half, made some shots that weren't falling for her in the first half, made some free throws in the fourth quarter when they were very important.
that's
Uh,
important.
uh, she's a freshman, but she's not a freshman. She never
Right.
looked like a freshman. And I told this story on the air while Greg and I were broadcasting the game, but I said, I went and watched St. Anthony and T-Town play pretty early this season. You were there too, and
I was there with you.
in Ruhal, Nancy struggled a little bit in the first half, and I was curious to see how she'd play because I knew she'd never been guarded the way that she was going to be guarded by T-Town. Okay,
Mhm.
and then she played a great second half in that game, made the personal adjustments that she needed to make, didn't let it get her
Yes,
down, and she played a great second half. And St. Anthony didn't win that game, but they stuck around, right? You know, uh, that was when I was sold on Nancy Ruhal as a varsity basketball player that night, I think. So she came through and between the fact that she's a little more of a focal point of the offense as a freshman than Lucy was, and
right.
she's hopefully not going to have to endure a half season because of COVID. You know, there's a good chance if she could stay healthy that in a few years we're talking about a new career scoring leader in
Yep.
the St. Anthony girls program.
Well,
That's just
and Lucy kind of alluded to that in her interview.
she did. She absolutely did. She understands. I mean, she's a
See, I
smart.
listen. I listen.
Yeah. But you know, North Clay played a North Clay very obviously played their best basketball at the end of the season, and that's all you can really ask for. If you looked at what they were doing against teams, uh, they were they were doing playing good basketball, and they fell a little short, but they gave St. Anthony more of a game than I probably personally expected. Now I only saw North Clay 2 or 3 times this year, so
Right.
I'm not an expert, but hats off to them. St. Anthony just they're good, and they made the adjustments they needed, both X's and O's, and I think mentally a little bit, and so they're moving on to that KZ sectional. Um, Also, Neoga wins its own regional, and I talked about being surprised how St. Anthony's regional final went down. A little surprised at how Neoga's went down too, not because they won, of course, because they were favored to win it, but the fact that they came out and the game was essentially by the end of the first quarter, you knew who was going to win. You know what I'm saying?
18-1 was the score, quarter score.
It wasn't the quarter score, but that was
Okay.
the score at one point in the first quarter. Yes.
I just remember at one point Gail giving us a score while we were
Uh-huh.
doing our game. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, and Yoga didn't do anything. They didn't do anything crazy defensively. Kim likes to. They'll do some different stuff, and they'll change defenses in the middle of a game, and they'll give you a lot of
Sure.
different looks. But in this one, it seemed to be pretty much man for a lot of the game, just hard nosed, and really where the game was won was they made sure that it wasn't going to be the Heckert girl, Gracie Heckert, that
Right.
beat them, and then they hit shots on the other end of the floor too. They
That's what I heard. I heard their guard shot pretty well.
Yeah, and that was a pretty big question mark for that team at the beginning of the season. They graduated their, two of their three starting guards from that state team last year, and kids that were willing to shoot and on certain nights pretty good shooters too. So you had big shoes to fill, and I think that I think Allie Sampson, who she scored, I think 17 points against Windsor Stew Straws in the regional semifinal, and then she was up she scored 12 points. That's easy to remember because four different Neoga girls scored 12 points in the championship game, but Sampson was one of them. And Sydney Hackman hit a few shots too, which they don't need her to score, but it sure is nice when she does it. They hit some threes early and really just put Cowden Herrick on their heels before they even knew what was really going on. So
yeah, when you're down 18-1, that's a big hole.
Yeah, and they're a team that CHBC won 21 games this year, 20 or 21 games.
Right.
So they're not used to being down by 17 points in the first quarter, right?
And that's why the score was so surprising to Greg. Because I remember we heard it, Greg looked at me and
goes, Yeah. Neoga played a solid game. The Campbell girl saw a few more minutes. She played a little bit against Windsor Stew Straws, but not a whole lot. And she saw some more minutes against CHBC. I think it probably would have been more, except she picked up a couple of cheap fouls, legitimate fouls, but not ones that she wants to have. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
She moved well. She was a little rusty, I think, in the basketball aspect of things, but that's to be expected. She hadn't really played in a game in a couple of weeks. So,
and there's especially in a game like that, give them a little minutes to start getting the flow back. You're not going to have them risk retweaking what they've got going on. So,
but Neoga looked good. That was their 30th win. So they broke a school record for wins in the season last year on their way to finishing third in state, and that was 29 that they ended up with. So they're 30-3 now. So no matter what else, they've got that regional hardware. They've got that record, but they obviously would like to get a little more and have a chance to do so. They're going to go to that KZ sectional as well. And so it's the exact same four teams that are in that sectional that were up at Tuscola last year. Neoga, St. Anthony, Tuscola, and Tri-County. Or Hume Shiloh for whatever reason, if you're on the IHSA website, but it's Tri-County, The matchups are different. Last year,
Neoga plays Tri-County, right?
Yeah, last year St. Anthony and Tri-County played in the first round. Neoga and Tuscola played in the first round. This time around, St. Anthony and Neoga will play Tri-County in the first game, and then St. Anthony and Tuscola will play in the second game Tuesday night, and then the winners will play for the championship Thursday.
You and Matt are doing those games Tuesday night.
We are. We're doing them Tuesday, and then we'd like to think that at least one of the area teams will be playing Thursday as well. I don't think anyone would mind from the area, at least if it was both of them, just because that'd make for
rubber match.
It's a rubber match. It's a rematch of last year's sectional championship. There's a lot of storylines there. I don't know what the teams and coaches think about all that, what their preferred matchups are, but I know they'd like to be playing that game no matter who it's against.
Yeah, I don't think you care who you play. You just want to play.
Yeah, St. Anthony, they just played Tuscola like a couple weeks ago and whooped them, really. Beat them by 20 points at the Enloe Center. So Tuscola's coach was actually on hand at Neoga Friday night, since his game he'd already won his regional. And then I don't know what kind of he's obviously just hoping that he gets to see that he was getting a look at, maybe he'd already seen Neoga, of course. They beat Neoga at the Christmas tournament, but he was just
it's interesting that he's scouting ahead. I mean, he's already played St. Anthony. I understand that, but
St. Anthony had already played too, so there's nothing.
Oh, that's right. St. Anthony played Thursday. Okay.
Yeah. They were both playing their regional championships on the same night. And I think maybe Tri-County had already played. No, Tri-County hadn't played theirs yet, because we got word of that final while we were on the air, and they only beat Arcola by a little bit. They didn't handle Arcola, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't a one-sided game, but Yeah, I don't. Neoga played Tri County earlier this season too, and beat them pretty easily. But you know, it's once things are a month and a half ago, you start not to. I don't think as a coach you can worry too much about
Well, and
what happened.
you have to erase that first game from your head as far as results, tendencies, what they did. Here's how we did this. I mean, if you took something away, they should be adjusting.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely do you keep throwing the majority of the main thing at a team. Um,
My
so it's
my understanding is that Tri County and like I know of their coach a little bit. He's been there a long time, and they do like to press a lot and create turnovers and just sort of play an up tempo game where
yeah.
yeah you're going to make some mistakes too, but you're just banking on forcing more. He didn't do that so much when they played earlier in the season, so and that's the thing that has given Neoga some trouble over the course of the year, but not so much lately. So we'll see if he breaks that out in a win or go home type of game. But I think both teams kind of just, especially Neoga, they do what they do, and it's for them. It's just more about are we going to execute or not, and if we execute, then we'll be fine no matter what they're trying to do or take away from us. So
Yep.
it'll be a good sectional. I'm looking forward to Tuesday night. A couple of really good games. I could certainly see St. Anthony beating Tuscola again, of course, but Tuscola's got a good coach. Tim Colbacker's a good coach. I don't think he's going to get beat by 20 again, but he might. I don't know. He might figure out a way to win it, or St. Anthony might advance. It's you're not going to try and pick anything at the sectional level, right? Like there's no slam dunks there, and there's no slam dunk between Neoga and Tri County either.
No, it'll be a good sectional, and then T-Town won down at Carmi over Mount Carmel.
And T-Town didn't get challenged too much in that sectional.
No,
That
I
regional.
was surprised though they beat Mount Carmel by 20, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, and more than that, they limited Mount Carmel to what? Mount Carmel scored 20. I'm looking now. The final score was 45-25. So that was the thing to me, like holding them down to 25 points. That's
And Emily Conkle had 9, I believe.
yes. Yeah, she didn't play in the semifinal game, but she did score 9, coming back from missing. She missed 3 games with a foot injury. And I think the word just kind of was that they were going to try and rest it as much as they could and see how she responded. And they're going to.
Here's the thing. And I know I'm doing the game Tuesday with Greg at Pana. If she's not playing, I won't be surprised, and if she's playing, I won't be surprised.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals. Kaylee Niebury's had a pretty good ball game. I think Molly Ruhal hit 3 threes. So, it's just if Emily's not playing, do they have enough other people scoring?
Yeah.
And that's key. That's the key. They got a little more help for Niebury, so it's not just her toting the load. However, these other people haven't been in a sectional before for the most part. So
right. And you talk about good sectionals. Obviously some really good teams advancing to Pana for this sectional. T-Town's going to be playing Pana in the first game Tuesday night, and then Paris and Robinson will be squaring off in the second game. And I think if you're watching us, you know the reputation of both the Pana and Paris programs and the seasons that they typically have, and what Paris has done, especially the last couple of years.
And T-Town split with them, I know that. So,
yep. T-Town beat Pana on December 5th. Right. Beat them by 12 points, 48-36. And then they played Paris on the 19th. So 2 weeks later, they lost 43-27 to Paris. Did they run into? They didn't run into Robinson this year, did they? I don't think so.
I don't think they did.
No, not seeing it on here. I couldn't remember. Robinson's a solid team too. I mean, I think you kind of have to put the smart money on Paris to win that game against Robinson. But I think Robinson beat? I say that, and then it feels like maybe
we had this discussion. I didn't know Robinson beat Paris.
We did.
Then you told me it was boys, and I heard it wrong. So I don't know.
Well, and then I think somebody actually in the comments on the video said, no, Paris did lose to. So here's what I'm going to do. We're not going to get this wrong in two different shows, okay? Because the internet is a bad thing sometimes as far as spreading of information, but then also you can look it up and see that Paris did lose to Robinson. They lost to Robinson on January 23rd by 2 points.
There you go.
They played twice in a row because they played
like a regular season game and then into LIC tournament.
Well, reverse it though. The tournament game was first and then regular season. But yeah, Paris beat Robinson 45-25 on the 19th of January, and then 4 days later, got the took a 2-point loss to them. So we'll have to wait and see how that one turns out. Even with that information, Mike. Even with that information.
That's going to be a good regional or a good sectional, and I think both sectionals are. I don't see any quote blowouts.
No,
for anybody, because that's the nature of the beast. Once you go from regional to sectional, you get fewer possessions, fewer rotations, fewer kids see the floor. Maybe you play 9 regularly in the regional, and now that 9th one's kind of mad because now you're only playing 8 and maybe a minute for that 9th. It's just the nature of the beast.
Well, and something else to put out there is that, just looking at the collection of coaches that are involved in that too, for a lot of them, this isn't their first. It's not their first time advancing to this level and playing games of this magnitude against opponents of this quality. So, there's something to be said for that too. That there's not going to be a lot of people that are deer in the headlights on the sideline, I wouldn't think.
No, you may have some kids, some freshmen or sophomore who haven't been there.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't adjust well. It just happens.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it affects kids that way. But your quote leaders for the most part have been there and and it's their job to kind of help these young kids who are factors get through it, So we'll see.
Yep. Paris 28-3 on the season. Robinson's got 21 wins. They're 21-8. Not looking up Pena right now, but I can tell you that T-Town is what they're up to. T-Town's
something in 4, something in 3.
T-Town's girls are 26-5. 26.
That's where it was.
Yeah. But then Pena, I'm looking, they are 23-9. So lots of really good years and
good numbers.
And I didn't mention St. Anthony's bested their school record for wins in the season this year too, because they set one last year, and they're, and bouncing back to that 1A sectional for a minute, I will put this out there. I don't think that any of those 4 teams has played nearly as tough a schedule as St. Anthony has. St. Anthony's probably got the worst record of the 4, if I had to guess. But that was Tuscola's first loss whenever St. Anthony beat them a couple weeks ago. But
that right now, that is when you start cashing in those chips from getting some losses in the regular season, because you've got a big girl inside. Well, we faced 3 teams with big girls inside. We're okay.
Yeah,
we know how to handle it. We know this. So this is where it comes to fruition for you, is in the postseason.
Yep. I mean, they played, and some of that's just got to do, like, Neoga goes to that Christmas tournament in Monticello. That's where they see Tuscola, a lot of years. But then the other teams they played in that Christmas, it just so happens that they weren't very good, right? And St. Anthony goes to a Christmas tournament in Mattoon where, you face Champaign Central, or Centennial. I can't remember if it's Centennial or Central. I think it was Centennial. Galesburg, those are, and if Altamont had been healthy, that would have been another tough matchup. So
Neoga's relied heavily on the strength of the NTC to prepare them.
And it's nothing to shake a stick at, right? I mean, it's been a
right.
good year
No, but saying when you've got groups you know are going to be good, you need to step out of your comfort zone and play people.
And I will point out that they played T-Town. They played Pana. They lost the Pana game, but they played it.
Right.
But
that's what they got to do. But you've got to, as you build programs, you try to do that. I don't know if you get as insane as T-Town boys.
Yeah.
But you're pretty good.
T-Town
Effingham girls. Greg and I did that game Friday night.
Kind
of a weird game. Early, Effingham played pretty well. Got a couple early baskets, got out, and really didn't take a three in the first quarter till maybe a minute to go, which for Effingham's girls, if you've ever seen them, they like to shoot a three. So they weren't real. I mean, but Matt Toon was playing a man and wasn't going to let him do it. And I think early Madison Mates, they kind of had the floor spread out a little bit. She just did a nice little okey doke on the girl and went to the hole and got a bucket. And then Matt Toon started hitting some threes. Lily Gear and the Maples girl, Coach Gear's son and the Maples girl, started hitting threes. There was a Conyers girl hit some threes early. They were the ones, it was a complete role reversal. They were the ones making hay with the three. Effingham struggled early at the free throw line, maybe missed their first 4 free throws of the game. But it was never, you just felt like it was a game going to go down to the last possession. And then all of a sudden, Matt Toon got up 7, 9, late third, early fourth, and you thought, oh my gosh, does Effingham have it in them to get back in this? And Martin girl, who's a freshman, had a real nice third quarter, had 8 points in the third quarter. And then Moser girl came off the bench. I think she's a junior. She had 6 points in the fourth quarter, 5 or 6. They got her down on the block, and Matt Toon's the Sewell girl was in foul trouble all night. And this Moser girl on the block got a couple quick buckets, got a steal, did some nice things, and then all of a sudden, it's back to it's a dogfight again. It's back and forth, and there's just a couple plays late stood out, and the one play that I felt really killed Effingham, and I don't remember if it was tied or they were down 2. I think it was, and I may be getting 2 plays confused, but Ellen Eberge went baseline, beat her lady, went baseline, and then made a pass to Madison Mapes in the corner. Missed the 3, kind of caught the corner of the backboard, kind of missed it badly, but it just went out kind of towards that wing area beyond the arc and no man's land. And there were like 3 hearts. Could almost played Ring Around the Rosie. And they all kind of just paused for a second and looked at each other like, okay, you go ahead and get it. No, you go ahead and grab it. No, you go ahead and go. And then this little girl from Matt Toon, Sanders girl, just stepped in between them all, ripped it away, headed down the floor. And I think Matt Toon got a bucket, and it just maybe put them back up 2 or put them up 3 or 4. But it was just the moment in the game where it was just like everyone was kind of on their heels for a split second. And it bit them at some point. And then the ending, 2-point game, and I don't remember the exact time. I think 7 seconds. Matt Toon had the ball to go the length of the floor up 2. So Effingham's in the backcourt pressuring, and they had a person on the ball, so they had no one playing center field. So I kind of had an inkling it was coming. And Lily Gear, I laughed with her dad afterwards. I said, she's like Willie Mays. I mean, she turned an ankle. She tried to take a charge and got a block and bruised her wallet. So she was hobbling around there. And she, and then all of a sudden they throw a ball length of the floor and she takes out probably the fastest girl in the gym, went down and got it. And then went for the layup, got contested, missed it, instead of just getting the ball and maybe heading to the corner of the floor and killing the time.
Just
hey, come foul me. And I'll make free throws. I'm a good free throw shooter. And missed it. Effingham grabs the rebound, and we are up behind the Effingham bench. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the corner of my eye, I can see like all 14 coaches, they don't have. But I know Jeff, I know Wedges, I know Troy, Megan McDonald, they're all screaming timeout.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to hustle the ball back up the floor. They don't get the timeout.
No.
And
they weren't happy about it.
They weren't happy about it. And the official, I don't understand, because the official was on that end of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Official had to see it. Official had to hear it. I'm just that's and I know Jeff on the postgame show was very unhappy. And I'm not saying they lose the game because of that. No. But I think they have a chance for Jeff to draw up a play. I think it's easier for boys teams from three-quarter court or half, it may have got it at half court. I doubt it. But three-quarter court to go the length of the floor in 3 seconds and get a good shot. But they would have had an opportunity.
Yeah, you'd like to at least get that chance.
You'd like to have that opportunity. And and I know Jeff wasn't happy. I talked to Ryan Gear after the game, and he was sitting on the other end of the floor, down on the floor, and he goes, they were calling for it, Mike. And he says, and it seems like, and when I coached, if you got in that situation, officials would always look at the bench at some point to see. And because Ryan said, I expected the official to be looking at the bench.
They see a lot of games, right? Like they understand what game situations.
Yeah, they know what's going on. They know someone's wanting to call a timeout.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was an unfortunate ending for the girls. They didn't play that well. They had a lot of turnovers, and that hurt them.
You lose a game by 2 points, and it's very easy to just go back to any moment in that game and think.
Right, and you can say, "Oh, it was this." Well, there's tons of moments in the game. Mm-hmm. Trust me.
Yeah,
tons of moments. But it was just one. They just, I'd seen them beat Paris and much different group. They just didn't take care of the basketball.
Mattoon must have done something this season that Effingham did not find very comfortable to play against, because even though the Hearts had won the previous 2 meetings, they were both by like 5 points.
I'll tell you what, I think Mattoon's quicker, just a hair quicker. And they guarded Effingham hard and nothing was easy for Effingham. The spot up threes, you weren't getting those, didn't get them at all. They hit a couple threes, but they weren't, if they got, loose ball or you kick out a rotation or an offensive rebound. But, and Effingham did some nice things and ran some nice things and executed. But then, there was pick and rolls where maybe there was a bump of contact and the roller wasn't in the spot where they were anticipated. And Jeff said something on the post game about there was one time where a player stopped either rolling or cutting and the pass was going to be for them and they had stopped or something. So I don't know, but they were hitting on about 6.5 cylinders, and a lot of it had to do with, I felt Mattoon's defense, because I thought Mattoon played pretty good defense. I really did. And Effingham, there were girls on the floor all night, both teams. Both teams sold out and got after.
Yep.
It was a fun game to watch. It just wasn't a great game because I don't think either team played really well.
Games
Mattoon shot it well.
games can be entertaining without being well played, can't they?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Matt Toon, that got them up to 500 for the first time this year. They're 16-16, but I think they're another one of those teams that got off to a bad start to the season, and they never really did when they went 2-10 in the Apollo. But I want to touch on the Apollo in a second here. But they won some games down the stretch, and they're not going to be an easy out, in the next level either. So
yeah, what's the Apollo got 3 girls in sectional?
4. They got 4 teams that made it to no 3.
3.
You're right. No, 4 because Lincoln and Mount Zion play each other. Four sectional teams out of the Apollo.
Who's the 4th one, Mom?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep. So Effingham's season ends at 20-11. Another 20-win season for them. It's just you can almost count on it. But the Apollo, man, Lincoln won their regional championship by almost 40 points. They're still undefeated. Taylorville did not win a regional championship. That was the one surprising thing, was Taylorville finished second in the Apollo, and they got knocked off by a team from East St. Louis in the regional semifinals, I guess it was. Regional, yeah. But Muhammad won a regional. Mount Zion won a regional, and Matt Toon obviously won one. So four Apollo teams advancing to the sectional level. They had 3 last year, had a chance at 4, but Effingham couldn't quite get it done against Mount Vernon. The Apollo Conference.
Luckily, they're spread out in postseason where they have that luxury.
Yeah. The Apollo is in non-conference games this year, 98-38. Okay.
Not bad.
And you have to take into account that Charleston is having a terrible year. 14 of those 38 losses belong to them.
I'll say they got a third.
Yeah. So you look at the rest of the Apollo Conference, good Lord. It hasn't been an easy couple of years to play in that league. Effingham went 5-6 in the Apollo, and quite honestly, you can't feel too bad about that because you were being tested by everybody with the exception of Charleston every time you took the court. So, I'm sure Jeff had some some reservations about the way it came to an end, but in the big picture, it's another good season, and he's had a handful of those. So that I guess pretty much puts a bow on the girls. One last thing I want to touch on. I forgot to bring it up when we were talking about the 1A, but we ran into Katie Noble, formerly Katie Heckert, in the hospitality room at Neoga before the game Friday night, and Matt was asking her about this is just kind of a funny little thing. Matt said, "That's got to be nice, for it was a nice story for Gracie to score her 1,000th point, on the same court that you scored your 1,000th point." And Katie said, "Yeah, but I'll tell you one thing. I was tougher than she is." We thought that was a funny little thing, but that's a good little storyline, with them. She's the assistant coach at Cowden Herrick. Mark Bain's their head coach, but nice for her to get to see her daughter score 1,000. They've got a nice little pedigree going there, and really good ball player who's not done yet. She's going to play in college, and I think she was probably battling some stuff injury wise this season that didn't keep her off the floor, but probably kept her from being 100%. And so hopefully she'll be at full strength at some point and continue to make the area proud at the next level. So I think we can put a bow on girls basketball now.
All
right. All those sectional semifinals with the 3 teams that we are interested in, all Tuesday night, finals on Thursday. So we'll have more to talk about next week with them. Boys regionals got started yesterday.
Let's finish up boys regular season because we had some good regular season games. Just real quick.
That's right.
Touch on a couple of things.
Yeah, we better.
I went and watched the T-Town only game. I got there late. I had a meeting. Got there 3 minutes into the game.
Probably over already, wasn't
it? No, it was nothing. When they waited for me to get there before they started scoring. Or maybe T-Town just scored to go up 2-0 as I was getting in the gym. But Olney was just listless. It was just I've never seen a Rob Flanagan team not play with a sense of urgency.
Yeah, I mean,
time out in the first quarter, and I'm standing in the doorway there close, and he lit him up pretty good. I mean, I'm like, hey, I remember that guy. He got on him, and they didn't respond, Dustin.
Yeah, I mean,
there was never a point in the game where they fought back.
I guess we kind of buried the lead here. T-Town beat him by 30,
Beat him by 30.
And held him to 23 points. That's the big thing. Like,
and they hit some threes, some tough threes, or they maybe keep them under 20. I'm not going to lie.
I mean,
and T-Town, the senior night, big crowd. I'll tell you what, crowd was very almost, I bet if you counted heads, it was within 50 people of the St. Anthony crowd. Yeah. And only brought a lot of people. And those poor folks came up, didn't get to see anything. And I
mean, I saw that Winkler kid score more than 23 points.
Oh, he did nothing
against Effingham.
No.
They took him out of it, did they?
They got post touches to Toman, and Caleb Seymour said, I know you're big, but this is my yard.
Yeah.
And he held his ground. Toman had, I think, at least 2 travels trying to back in and make a move and would just lose his balance and his footing and stumble. He struggled.
Toman's a big kid, but he's got a lot of growing left to do.
Oh, he's going to become a great player. He's going to really become a nice player.
Mm-hmm.
James Nieberge had 20. I think Brendan maybe had 19, 18. They'd get post touches and guys would cut, and Seymour would just feed it back to them. They were shooting layups. They just played well.
Mm-hmm.
And, Rob, boy, he just looked like he was next in line to get called into the dentist for root canal. He was just, he was lifeless. And man,
I'm going to push back on that a little bit, because anytime I've needed a root canal, I couldn't wait to get back in there and get them to numb me.
No. This is just knowing what you're getting ready to go through. But wow, and I coached against Rob. He's one of the best coaches around.
Sure.
And I don't know that he barked at the officials once about a call the whole game. And there's one where you think, come on, if you're going to call that a charge, it's got to be, there's always something. I don't know that he ever did. It was it was a clinic. It was a clinic, and T-Town played really well. I talked to the only radio guys after the game because Dad wanted me to say hello to one of them, and they were like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, T-Town's won 7 in a row. They had that stretch. They
had that stretch where they lost 3 in a row. And
yeah,
I don't think they've lost
since,
have they?
Mater Dei, and they lost Pinckneyville, but then they haven't lost since Pinckneyville. They beat Newton, beat St. Anthony, Robinson, Casey, Centralia, Mattoon, and Olney. Now, is that the same murderer's row that they faced, in the middle portion of the season?
Not bad teams in there.
No, but Centralia is pretty good. Casey is solid,
Casey, St. Anthony,
beating Robinson by 30.
Play Robinson probably for a regional final.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's beating Robinson by 30, beating Olney by 30. It's not just who you're beating, it's how you're beating them, right? Like that's
I don't want to sound homerish.
No, go ahead.
T-Town's not played their best basketball yet, Whitey.
Yep.
Because it's kind of funny. I was talking to a gentleman, might have been at halftime, might have been after the game, and he says, older gentleman, good guy, he says, Brendan, Jimmer, and Caleb have never played great the same night.
Yeah. I mean, obviously part of it is that a team goes in to face T-Town, and they're going to have to make a hard decision, What are we going to try to take away? We can't.
Yeah,
We're not
we're gonna take
capable
away
of
the
taking away
inside
everything.
game, the 3-point shooting, or the slash.
Yep. And that's
James
what
Nieberge. Oh, did you see? I shared that on Facebook. They give the seniors T-Town
I
give
saw
out
that.
like their.
I
You
saw
saw?
that.
I got a jersey.
Yeah.
I was Jimmer's golf coach one year, so Jimmer came out for golf. But
Well,
I talk to him all the time, and
I hope that he can find some other positive influences in life at some point so that he.
but when he was leaving the house, he said, "God, Coach, I've not scored 20 points in the game yet this year." I said, "You'll do it." I
And he
said,
did
"Here's
it.
the." I said, "You got to start pulling up from 10 feet." I said, "Sometimes, James, you get a little deep and rely on your athleticism." I said, "Pull up from 10 feet, nobody can guard you." And the other night, I saw him hit 2 of those, and I thought, "Hey, he got 20 points, 2 pull-up jumpers. I think really, I got him over the hump."
Well, I was wondering if this was leading to you taking credit or not.
Well, yeah, but no, it was. They played well, good
Yeah,
ball game.
T-Towns, I mean, they're obviously because of what's right across that chest, nobody wants to
Right?
play them anyway. But I
No,
think they're a team you don't want to run into in the postseason.
well, and then St. Anthony beats Casey by 15
Yeah, yeah.
on senior
Um,
night, and I got the impression person I spoke to said it really wasn't a 15-point game.
St. Anthony, they got. And the thing is, like they had Altamont, they went to Altamont Tuesday for the big rematch of the NTC title game, and Altamont just handled them again. Altamont.
Yes, they did.
Between that and beating Windsor by 20 points on Thursday, they, pretty much, pretty much showed that they were the class
And
of the
that's
conference.
2 good momentum games for Johnny
Mm-hmm.
going into the postseason. And I heard there, and I know we're not talking regional yet, but they had a big win, and Phillips kid was their leading scorer yesterday.
Yeah,
You got him back now. I'm
yeah.
telling you what,
They're scary. They're very scary.
they can be very scary.
But I think for St. Anthony, that's a good bounce back, right? Like Altamont
Oh,
beats
that's a
you,
huge win.
Altamont thumps you again, but then you get Casey to come in on Friday, and you don't just beat them, but you handle them, and so that gives you a nice head of steam going into the regional. And they played we'll get to that, but they played Sandoval in the first round. That was kind of a tune up for them, but yeah, St. Anthony goes out on a high note. Altamont goes out on a high note. Altamont runs the table in the national trail. They went 26. They are 26-4 now after winning yesterday.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert: they won their regional game by a few. Yeah, and I'm looking here. North Clay and Altamont ended up tied, or North Clay and St. Anthony ended up tied at 6-2 in the conference. North Clay won the head-to-head there. I don't know that
Right.
they do tiebreakers or not, but and then St. Anthony beat them later on in the year at the conference tournament. But those are the only 3 winning teams in conference standings, because Windsor Stew ended up going 4-4, which that's a pretty good team. That's Windsor Stew Straw is 22-9 now on the season, and they finished 4-4 in the conference.
So they've probably had 6 of their 9 losses to conference schools.
Yeah, I mean they and then South Central, St. Elmo, Diedrich, Neoga all went 3-5, and Cowden Herrick didn't win a game in the conference standings. But still, I'm looking at the NTC as it stands right now after yesterday's games. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 20-game winners, and Diedrich got 18. So, pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. I don't know any other
postseason.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think there's any other regular season stuff we really need to touch on. We should touch on this, and I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but the Dodson kid, Aiden Dodson from South Central, set a single season scoring record for South Central this year. They had an interesting week because they beat a team by 50 points on Tuesday, and then North Clay held them to 26 points the very next night.
I saw that.
65-26. I'd like to have seen how that went down, because South Central's awfully good to get beat like that. North Clay.
But remember, North Clay is healthy now.
Well,
Logan's on the point of that zone,
and let's
that's the difference.
Let's just get to it. North Clay, we there's any number of ways we could talk about the regional games that happened yesterday, but I think one of the ones I was most interested in hearing how it turned out, and I actually managed to be able to see it online.
What was the most competitive one we were following?
Yeah, they played Diederik, and they had already beaten Diederik twice this year, and this is in the South Central Regional. But both times Diederik had been either ahead or playing them real tough in early stages, and North Clay just pull away, or in one case at the NTC tournament, kind of really just kind of snuck in there and won it at the end.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the same thing this time. Diederik had a 1-point lead at halftime. Just didn't have the legs underneath them to keep hitting shots in the second half. And I'll tell you, yeah, you talk about Fleener being healthy again. And you go out there and find the pictures of it. They're floating around on Facebook. I believe the Widener kid, his mom is a photographer, and I think she posted some pictures. And maybe Tyler Repking shared them too. I think
Tyler's got video. I think Tyler was there.
Yeah, Tyler was definitely there because I saw him on stage.
His video, because they almost landed in Tyler's lap.
Because Fleener at one point, Fleener dunked a couple times in that game. Once on the stage.
The one Tyler has was one-handed.
Was it
in track?
Was it stage side?
I think it was stage side.
And he must dunk more than once in that game. I know that there was one where it was a transition bucket, but Diederik was there, right? Like it wasn't a breakaway. And Logan just goes up.
Was it the Gephardt kid that went up with it?
Yeah, well, I think that's the other one. But at any rate, both times he dunked over people. And you just, like, you don't see dunks in traffic very often in our neck of the woods. You just don't, I think you got to go back. I might have to go back to Eric Hobby to think of a person who just effortlessly went up. And
I was just now getting over the nightmares of Eric Hobby. He didn't have
and that's like 15 years ago, but
he could the man could get up in a hurry.
Yeah. But Logan got those hops. Because you look at Logan Fleener, and I know, listen, we talk about the kid probably an unfair amount in comparison to everybody else in the area, but he's a favorite of ours. And you don't look at him and think there's a kid who's just going to posterize somebody,
here's the thing. If you get a chance to go down Wednesday night and see North Clay St. Anthony, if you've not seen any time Logan Fleener has played, and that's a regional semifinal game. That's going to be a hell of a ball game. His pregame ritual right before the center jump, where he just jumps up and jumps about 4 feet underneath him. I think I could walk under
that. Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
That's the point where you go, ooh.
And if you want to go to that game in South Central, by the way,
you better go.
Yeah, you might want to leave. You might want to leave now and get a seat because.
Well, here's the thing: you're buying your tickets online now.
Yeah.
So, and we talk about that game coming up because really, we don't need to talk about St. Anthony Sandoval. We don't need to talk about Altamont. Did they play Patoka?
Mulberry Grove.
Mulberry
beat them by.
There's no reason talking about those. It's the next. Regional semifinal, and this tells you how good that regional is at South Central, because the semifinal is St. Anthony and North Clay round 3. Now, the first game they played, North Clay was healthy. St. Anthony was not St. Anthony yet. Cody was still molding, shaping, making people play. They played at the NTC. St. Anthony was kind of St. Anthony now. North Clay, Logan Fleener was about 70%, 60 to 70%.
Yeah.
Big difference. Because it's not like, oh, well, he wasn't going to score 20 more points. He scored 15. It's what he does in the game. And when he's back on the point on that trap, it's a lot better trap.
Yeah.
Nothing against Bose or Smith, whoever plays the point when he's not there. But you don't just, you have to bluff. You have to, feint like you're coming to trap. Now they're going to throw over the top, go up and get it. There's so many things you do. He's so good at poking from behind. It's a difference when he's on there.
It's just a comfort level thing too, because you practice a certain way. Everybody knows where they're supposed to be at in that thing. And they, when you start shifting people around, it's not just like plug someone else in, right? Like you rotate people around and they're just not as comfortable where they're at.
Well, because when he was hurt, Logan played in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have him on the point. I'm pretty sure you got Bosa Smith on the wing. So you've got three of the most athletic kids in our part of the state who play basketball. Okay. Mm-hmm. Are the three trapping on top of that? They're long, they're athletic, they cause problems, they're quick. It's going to be a good ball game to see because they're both different clubs than when they played the two other times.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, and you already said it. St. Anthony's, they're playing good basketball too.
They weren't playing well when they played because, again, Cody's still pulling pieces together and trying to do things. So they're different.
That's going to be a lot
different because they're healthy. That's going to be. It's a shame that's a regional semifinal game. I mean, it really is. And here's we're going to do something here shortly, but I'm just telling you, the winner of that game, I feel sorry for Christ-Our Rock. It's just me.
And that's the thing. Christ-Our Rock is actually Christ-Our Rock Lutheran out of Centralia. They're actually the top rated team, the top seeded team in that regional in South Central. They are going to play Sisney actually in the other semifinal game because Sisney snuck one out.
They already played Sisney. Have they already played Sisney?
They've already played them twice actually because they're.
I'm just saying, and they haven't. Have they throttled them twice?
Well, so they beat them in. Yeah, it hasn't been. I'm looking it up now, but I watched some video of those two teams playing for the Midland Trail Conference Championship, and Sisney hung tough for a while, but ultimately didn't. It wasn't super competitive.
Well, now, people have told me how good they were supposed to be this year. Maybe they're just gelling late because who did they beat? They beat South Central pretty good.
Did they in this regional? No, they beat them by 2 points.
Okay, beat them by 2.
Yeah, no. Here's the deal. Sisney a couple of blowouts. Sisney in the conference game between them and Christ-Our Rock. Christ-Our Rock beat them 90-44.
Oh,
first of all, who scores 90 points in the game? Like, how does that even? I didn't know that was still a thing, right?
That's my day, man. That's my day.
Then they played. Let's see. That game was on January 9th. 12 days later, they play for the conference tournament championship, and Christ-Our Rock beats them 68-33. So
here's the thing: when you've got two blowouts like that, that kind of harkens back to the 79 Bulldogs. I think T-Town had beat them by 20 to 30 points twice, and then St. Anthony was up the first quarter in the regional final, like 23-2.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can pencil Christ-Our Rock. I'm going to go out on a limb.
I wouldn't do pin, but I would pencil them in. I don't have any trouble there. I just think they've not played what they're going to play in the final, whether it is North Clay or whether it's St. Anthony.
They've lost one game all year long. That was to Alden Marquette, who they also beat, by the way. They played them twice. But Alden Marquette beat them by 2 points back on February 3rd after they had lost by 15 earlier in the season. A couple of weeks prior.
I saw Marquette last year in the sectional against T-Town.
Yeah, but that's the only loss. That's the only loss that Christ-Our Rock has. And again, they're playing the Midland Trail these days, and they're not getting pushed by a lot of those teams.
But if they get to the final, which they probably should, they're.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sell them short.
You're not Kansas anymore, Toto.
Yeah, but again, I don't want to sell them short because I haven't seen them in person. I've seen them on video play a couple of teams.
Right. But what I'm saying is, oh my God, they're 32-1. North Clay's played better teams this year than them, and St. Anthony's played better teams than them.
Yeah.
They're not going to be deer in headlights. We're
one thing I'll point out.
This is a regular season Tuesday night for us.
What's that?
They're going to say this is a regular season Tuesday night for us.
One last little anecdotal thing I'll bring up, and this is courtesy of Matt Robinson when we were talking about it Friday night at the girls regional championship. He said that Brownstown St. Elmo played a regular season game, or St. Elmo Brownstown on the boys' side. I'm sorry, they played a regular season game against Crystar Rock on
I heard this
February 14th, and they St. Elmo lost by 22, and after the game, Greg Fiesel, the St. Elmo coach, said, "Boy, that team's unbelievable. I haven't seen anyone that good all year long." So, that's a word of mouth thing, of course, but he respected what they did anyway. And of course, he just gotten beat by them. So what last happened is always freshest in the memory. That's just nature.
Yeah, I know. It's just,
I think they have some length that causes some. I mean, if they play North Clay, it's going to be two teams who like to do a lot of the same things going up against each other. They like to play.
Well, and the thing is, they win a lot of games by a large margin.
If you can keep them tight, if you can keep them tight for the first half, the response.
You just hang around, and the old sphincter muscle tightens up a little bit.
Well, we talked about that when Ken Crawford was remembering that game against Nashville, on the last run to state. That team was just crushing people on its way through the postseason, and
they didn't crush us.
Right? Yeah. So
we played Nashville tough, and
right, but I mean,
we're going to get it.
Once the postseason started, in
the postseason they walked over people.
Yeah. So, and you give them a game, and they're high school kids, right? Like, you never know what's going to happen in there.
Hey, usually by now we're yucking it up, talking about other stuff. And
Yep.
And here's the other thing: foul trouble. They
deep.
Rely heavily on 3 kids.
Yep. So that's the South Central Regional, right? Like that's you're gonna have probably Crystar Rock against either St. Anthony or North Clay in that one.
I agree
obviously
with that one.
That's the regional from hell. That's nobody wanted to end up
pretty brutal.
I mean, South Central was in that one, a 6 seed in the subsectional. They lose their quarterfinal game. South Central won 21 games this year. I mean, goodness gracious.
They don't even get to the semis. All right, let's move north to Nokomis.
Yeah, Nokomis, Altamont, as we already mentioned, they got to play Mulberry Grove yesterday, and that was not a game, right? Like you didn't expect it to be. And the team that they're going to play next, Carlisle, that was a 10 versus 11, and Carlisle beat Edinburgh by 32 points. So, Carlisle's got a pretty good tradition, right? Like,
Andy Palmer is done. This is his last year. I saw it on Twitter. He has announced he's retiring at the end of the year.
That's
good guy.
That's who St. Anthony knocked out last year, right? And I think they played Carlisle in the region.
In the final regional, yeah.
Yep. So Altamont's going to play Carlisle in the semifinal, and then you got Nokomis and St. Elmo on the other side. Nokomis played Ramsey. They won by 40 points. St. Elmo played Patoka, and they won by 35 points. Now, St. Elmo got an 8 seed in that subsectional. Like, I think St. Elmo
could have a chip on their shoulder based on their seed.
And I just think that they could give Nokomis some issues, not knowing a lot about
Nokomis. I was impressed with them at the holiday tournament. They got some kids who can shoot it. Or the NTC tournament. I'm sorry. Yeah. They got some kids who can shoot it now.
I'm looking at St. Elmo's schedule. It was Hillsborough, not Nokomis, that they played in the St. Elmo holiday tournament and lost to Hillsborough by 2 points. But they are a team that has some real athletes. I mean,
good group. That should be a good game.
They get it all rolling at the same time, and they could certainly make things interesting or get a win. And they played Altamont pretty tough not long ago, right? Like if they could get back to that game, they got to feel like, oh, we could compete in this game. I mean, Altamont's playing unbelievable basketball right now, but but it was the game before Altamont got beat by Tuscola in that shootout. That was when San Elmo,
and Tuscola hit like 15 threes, 14 threes in that game.
Yeah, that's what Matt was telling me, that Tuscola couldn't miss 3-pointer in that game. So that was uncharacteristic for sure. Broke up an 18-game win streak, I think it was, for Altamont. But I don't care. No team in this part of the state in 1A is as scary as Altamont is right now. No matter.
I agree.
It is what it is. And then you got
all right. Where are we jumping to?
Yeah, Cumberland Regional. We'll touch on it real quick. The two semifinals are going to be Casey and Neoga. And all these semifinal games are on Wednesday, by the way.
Right.
Casey beat Central A&M by 30 points. Neoga beat Martinsville by 9, which was Martinsville actually came to Neoga and beat Neoga earlier in the season. So that was a good win for Andrew's team to get back to
bounce back.
Then they played Casey. They played Casey pretty tough when they met the first time around. So Neoga's another one of those teams. I mean, they've got a couple of guys. If they get everyone going in the right direction on the same night, seedings be damned. They could make an interesting game out of it. So we'll see how that one goes. And then you got Windsor Stew Straws against Macon Meridian on the other one. Windsor Stew Straws, they beat CHBC by 14 points in the semifinal. They had just played a regular season game, by the way, and it pretty similar score to that one, I think. And then Macon Meridian pulled off the biggest upset of the
that's the biggest upset of all regionals so far. That's the highest seed to lose.
Yeah, they beat Cumberland 48-40. Cumberland was the 5 in the subsectional. Macon Meridian was a 10. Macon Meridian was a real good team last year that apparently must have lost a little bit to graduation. But, they find their way back into a semifinal. They'll play Windsor Stew Straws and the other one there at Cumberland. But, Windsor Stew and Casey, if it came down to that, it wasn't so long ago that they played each other. And Windsor came out a victor there. So Casey's the higher seed, but that's
that's one almost where if you're going to beat them once, maybe you wanted to save that card until weekend. I don't know.
I don't know where Casey's at right now. I mean, like you mentioned, St. Anthony just thumped them.
Yes.
But they bounced back and beat Central A&M, but the way they should. So we'll wait and see. But even while that regional got third billing in our discussion, there's still a pretty good potential championship game matchup.
Right. And Tuscola should walk through the other one.
Yeah.
There's nobody. I'm not too worried about that.
I wouldn't.
All right, let's jump to 2A.
2A, T-Town.
T-Town hosts, and who do they play? Shelbyville Wednesday.
Yes, because
Shelbyville beat Paris.
Yeah, and it wasn't close either.
No, that surprised me. I thought it'd be closer than that.
Yeah,
and then the other game you've got Robinson and
I'm looking.
I don't know who Robinson plays.
Uncomfortable pause while Dustin scrolls on the internet here.
You're like the king of screen sharing usually.
Robinson beat Sullivan, so Robinson and Flora play because Flora beat
Robinson and Flora. Okay.
Yeah, neither one of them. Nobody got tested in the quarterfinals of that regional. Shelbyville beat Paris by 24. Robinson beat.
I don't think the T-Town hasn't played Shelbyville, or maybe they did play Shelbyville.
No, they didn't play Shelbyville. I don't think so. No, T-Town did not. T-Town
gets off to a good start. That can be kind of a wide margin.
Yeah, I mean, Shelbyville is a solid team, like
they got a big kid that's supposedly pretty decent, but last time I checked, T-Town's got a big kid that holds his own. So,
yeah, you can't really use that you can't use that as hold that over T-Town. Well, we got a big kid,
We got a big kid gonna score a lot of points. Well, we got a big kid that just gonna stand there and not let you move. So
yeah, Shelbyville's won 19 games this year, so they're not.
I know.
It's not like they're. But
I think I'm planning on going over Wednesday and watching that.
Yeah. But you would like to think that if T-Town plays well, that they're in pretty good shape to win their own.
I think they'll be okay. I think they will. I mean, they beat Robinson.
They beat Robinson.
Flora's been okay this year. Some of their scores have kind of surprised me. They've won some games I didn't think they'd win, and then they've lost some games I didn't think they'd lose. So, but I'll go there Wednesday. I'll see Phil lead. Coach Crawford talked about guys you coach against that you get to really know and like. Phil's a good guy.
Yeah. He's been there a long time too.
Yes, he is. I like him a heck of a lot better as a coach than as a player. I'll just say it.
Robinson's won 20 games this year, but again,
same thing. Max won some nice games against people. I think they've been snafu'd by injury bug a lot this year, but we'll see.
And
if I was going to Vegas, I'd have to bet on the home team in that region.
I mean, we're an admittedly pro shoes show here anyway, but I think it's
right. I don't think that's homerism, but
no, I don't think we're seeing
just looking at what I've seen.
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing things through the blue and old gold colored glasses here. I think we're
Vegas gold, baby, Vegas gold.
I think you can still be objective and pick T-Town to win that one pretty easily. And
Lawrenceville. Let's go to Lawrenceville real quick.
Yeah, let's.
Because I think that's going to be a pretty good regional.
Yeah,
because I know Lawrenceville, Mount Carmel, Newton, and who's the fourth team still
alive? Fairfield.
Fairfield beat Marshall double overtime yesterday.
Yeah, and Marshall's having a real tough year. So.
Yeah, Fairfield's not been having a great year either, and then to go double overtime on your home floor.
Yeah, I think last I checked, Marshall won 2 games, so they're certainly having their.
I talked to a guy who officiates. I haven't seen him, and he saw him, and he says,
"Yeah." So I would think Lawrenceville, who is the top seed in that regional.
Lawrenceville, I think.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Lawrenceville is the top seed in a regional. They ought to advance, you would think.
I'm leaning towards the blue and orange in this regional.
Lawrenceville's won 23 games this year. I had not realized how good they were, but
I'm going with the LIC tourney champs, the Newton Eagles.
Well, so here's the thing about Newton. Newton has to get through Mount Carmel again.
It's just like the LIC tournament again. They had to beat Mount Carmel. Then they had to beat someone. Then they had to beat Olney.
Something we haven't touched on with Newton, and I do not have the lowdown on this. I don't know what the story is, but Parker Wolf hasn't played since the T-Town game.
Really?
He is their second leading scorer, and yeah, he hasn't played since then. They beat Marshall, they beat Tolono, they lost to Olney, beat Pena, lost to Casey in the meantime without him. And then they didn't have to, they did not have to play a semi or a quarterfinal game in this regional. But Wolf
wasn't a huge factor. I don't remember him being a huge factor in the T-Town game. The Nichols kid was unconscious the first half.
Yeah, well, Nichols.
Maybe there's an injury there. I don't know.
Yeah, Nichols is their leading scorer, but Wolf is up there at 14 a game. So losing him is no small thing. They lost to Casey on the 14th, and I went back and watched that game mostly because I needed to get scoring totals from it. I hadn't found a box score anywhere. They had Casey beat for a lot of that game, and then Casey came back and got him. They had Casey down, and then they just didn't score very much down the stretch. That game was 36-34. I was kind of skipping through it, but kind of ugly. But yeah, Wolf didn't play in that one and hasn't played in the month of February. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see if he re-emerges for the regional or what's going on. For all I know, he's hurt and he's not playing again, but I could not tell you.
I'm reaching out to some Jasper County peeps while you talk to see.
Yeah. I guess should have brought that to your attention sooner, because obviously you probably know how to get a hold of the coach.
Didn't say I was reaching out to the coach. I just said I've got a lot of Jasper County people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's got a brother-in-law might have an answer to that question too. So,
he's been where was he at? He's been somewhere. I forget, somewhere this winter. He went somewhere on a vacation this year. He may have gone to Europe this winter. I didn't know.
Is Doug healing up all right from his?
He only hurts when he needs to get a couple strokes on the golf course. Then he. I think they're all doing well. I've talked to them all.
That's good. That's good.
Last so and so. I mean, they're still mending.
So before I think you wanted to try and pick regional winners.
Yeah, we're gonna pick regionals. See between the two of us who's got
maybe while you're waiting for an answer there, we'll buy a little time and at least
we'll talk about Effingham yesterday.
Yeah, Effingham's boys saw their season end yesterday. They went to Marion, and it was a tight game. They were
got beat by 8.
Yeah, 69-61 is the final. I heard that.
Was that a 4-8 seed game in that complex?
6-8, I think it was. Effingham was the 8. And
Marion was 6. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe Heron's the 4.
Yeah, I know that Marion was a 6, but I don't know all the seedings there. But yeah, Effingham sees its season come to a close. They went 11-20. Andrew Splector apparently scored 30 points in that game yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that where he had 30.
Goes out with a bang. I think Andrew's a kid. Last season did not go the way he wanted it to. He got in the starting lineup and didn't perform, and eventually found his way not in the starting lineup. But he got another chance this year. And I know, listen, like, they didn't win a ton of games, but he had a senior season where he averaged 12.5 points a game, and that's nice for him. I'm just glad for him to get another crack at it and play pretty well. And
it's a case where when he played well, they were pretty decent, and then sometimes he got caught up in other things going on the floor, and it affected his play. And as a team, they didn't play well when he was distracted. How's that? Yeah.
But they'll miss him. They'll miss Garrett Wolf, obviously, and Heil and Donaldson, like they're going to be starting from scratch in a lot of ways next year, at least in terms of a starting lineup. But it's back-to-back tough years for Effingham, and you look at that, you look at the group of seniors that they relied on this year, and again, they're going to be rebuilding the starting lineup. I don't know what next year is going to look like. I just know there's going to be a lot of work to do in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, they had some young kids at times this year who got a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
It's developing those young kids and seeing how they do.
Yeah, there's just going to be a lot of trial by fire next year, because there's going to be a lot of kids that are learning how to be varsity players in the starting lineup as opposed to in 6 or 8 minutes of time on the floor. Yeah.
Newton's team will be healthy by Wednesday in the regional. He got banged up in the T-Town game a little bit, and they kept him out a couple of games, and then I think he got sick. So
good to know people. That's Mike Wilson is a networker, if among other things, and the man
among other things,
the man can get a question answered. So that's good, because I don't know who I would have turned to. I would have.
Well, I'm just, sometimes it's amazing that people will answer me. So.
Well, that's interesting, because that might affect my prediction a little bit.
All right, let's go for our picks. We're gonna have a little contest. What's the contest, Whitey?
Well, so you didn't win your little family football.
No,
thing, so you're not buying lunch there.
Don't bring that up. Originally I wanted to pick the Chiefs. I really did. And then I read all the smart people tell me how good the Eagles defense was. And I switched and went with the Eagles, and it cost me money. It cost me a couple $100. I'm just going to be honest. So I don't have to buy you lunch. There's some silver lining.
Okay.
So
So
we're going to pick these 8 games.
uh-huh.
We want to say lunch.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Lunch is at stake.
And we're only doing 2 sectionals. We're doing the Altamont sectional and the
Newton sectional.
Newton section. That is correct.
1A and 2A. Okay. So we can go one regional at a time. We each pick.
Okay.
Okay. And we'll alternate who goes first also.
That's fine. That's fine.
There's not too much.
I have them written down. I'll keep my hands in my pocket so I can't change my votes.
All right. T-Town Regional. Shelbyville, T-Town, Robinson, and Flora.
I picked T-Town.
Yep. I also picked T-Town.
Okay.
That's easy. The Lawrenceville Regional. Lawrenceville, Fairfield, Newton, Mount Carmel. Those are the 4 teams left.
I'll pick first. I'll pick Newton.
I've also got Newton.
Oh, okay.
Wow! And I have this written down too, so I'm not going to deviate. Okay.
All right. Troy Bierman will be excited here. Well, or it could be the kiss of death.
I think knowing that Wolf is playing, I changed it at the last minute. I was gonna go with Lawrenceville. But I still think Mount Carmel is gonna have something to say about it. Anyway, Litchfield Regional, you got Alden Marquette versus Litchfield, and then Pana versus Hillsboro. I'm actually gonna go with Hillsboro on that one.
All right, I'm gonna go with Marquette.
Okay. And then the East Alton Wood River Regional, Greenville and Salem, and then Piasaw and Roxana. Those are the 2 semifinals.
Roxana upset. Who did they? They upset somebody.
Host. They beat them by 1. I don't know what the seed was there, but anyway, did I pick Hillsboro first on that last one?
Yeah, I'll go with the old Mid-State Conference Greenville Comets.
I went Greenville too, mostly just because they're the ones.
Okay.
I don't know really much about that one.
Marquette and Hillsboro are only differing. That could determine dinner. Okay. Now let's go to the 1A Altamont sectional.
Okay, the Altamont sectional. Let me scroll to it so I can read the matchups off to people. In that Nokomis regional, you got Altamont versus Carlisle, and then Nokomis versus St. Elmo. Those are the 2 semifinals. You go ahead.
Well, since I spent a year as co-volunteer assistant with John Nieberg on the bench at T-Town and gave him a lot of wisdom, I'll pick Altamont.
I also picked Altamont. The Cumberland regional, Casey and Neoga is the 1 semifinal. Windsor Stew and Macon Meridian's the other one. I'm gonna pick Windsor Stew Straws to win that one.
I'm going with Casey.
Okay, so there's another difference. Okay. At South Central, we got Centralia across our Rock Lutheran against Sisney in 1 semifinal, then St. Anthony versus North Clay in the other semifinal.
Can this be like in the NCAA when they have the play-in game? I get whoever wins.
No.
Okay. This is a tough one. I will tell you this. This is a tough one. And it's a tough one who I'm picking. And one of the choices is not Christ-Our Rock. I'm sorry. I'm going to go with the Bulldogs.
I went with St. Anthony too.
Okay.
I did.
And here's what I'm going to tell you. I think that game Wednesday between them and North Clay is going to be one you would like to see. I really do.
Now, I didn't know we were doing this contest until a few minutes before we started recording, so I didn't put a ton of thought into that. But I have thought about those 2 teams a lot this year. And I may be picking St. Anthony, but I think it's going to be I think that game with North Clay is going to be a battle. And I could see either team winning it.
I will go on a limb because it doesn't matter. We both pick the same team. But if North Clay wins the regional, we both get credit for a win, too.
It's true. And I do tend to think that whichever one of those teams advances, I like them to come out of the, what I'm saying?
I do too.
Okay. And then the last one, I don't think we're going to differ on this one. Tuscola Regional, Tuscola, Villa Grove, and then Okaw Valley and Arcola are the 2 semifinals. Tuscola. Yeah.
Tuscola.
So it really, it comes down to I want Hillsboro to win that one, and we both picked Newton. We both picked St. Anthony. Oh, and Windsor Stew Straws is the other one I need. So we'll see. And I don't know. If we tie, then I guess it's kind of like I don't know. We'll figure out something. We'll figure out a tiebreaker. But yeah, I think the St. Anthony one, the St. Anthony pick is the one I feel the least confident in. Obviously, I think you could have picked any three of those teams and not really.
Me too. And again, I would much rather do my NCAA play-in game pick and take the winner of that game.
Yeah, I don't want anyone from North Clay to think that like
no, that's the hardest pick of the 8, Whitey, is that regional, and it's not the potential regional final matchup, in my opinion.
Yeah, yep. Yeah.
I'm a big believer in strength of schedule. I really am.
And North Clay's pushed themselves a lot this year.
Yes, they have.
And last year.
And St. Anthony's played the strongest, according to Aaron Britton, strongest 1A schedule in the state.
Yep. Well, I mean, they outside the conference, essentially they play a 2A schedule. I mean, that's what it boils down to. I mean,
and give Josh credit. They've played a really strong schedule.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, North Clay could justifiably put together a schedule where that team that they've got this year wins 26 or 27 games instead of 21. They could have easily put that schedule together.
I saw a tweet by Aaron Britton about St. Anthony's strength of schedule being they had the hardest strength of schedule in the state. And he says, in essence, their schedule means they played every game this year against Casey. That's how he kind of equates to what their opponent has been on.
Yep.
So that says a lot. That says a lot about your non-conference. That also says about the strength of your conference.
Yeah. I've been throwing it out there all year long. The both the girls and boys national trail. If you take out the games, if you take out the non-conference games they play against each other, like in holiday tournaments and now in some regional games, like they're both. They 2 out of 3 basically they win. Like they're just they're good, among the best small school conferences in the state, if not the best. On
my source also picked Newton to win the regional finals.
Well, I feel I'm not 100% sure I know who the source is, but I feel pretty confident being in the same mindset as this person. So whoever.
Well, I'm careful. All right, now turn the page.
Okay.
I saw a meme the other day, Whitey, and I hate to bring this up because this means we will get beat during the Big Ten tournament. But the meme said you can't spell Illinois without 2 L's, and I kind of got a chuckle when I saw that.
I'll tell you, losing to Indiana twice in the season doesn't really bother me near as much as losing to Penn State twice in the same season.
Gosh, I watched Penn State. Oh, can they shoot the basketball?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't
that Penn State Illinois game. Mr. Pickett was like, hey, he was shooting from the concession stand.
And I know that this is not your typical shitty Penn State team, okay?
No, they're pretty good.
But still, if you're going to be, they're not it's just still hard for me to wrap my mind around. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Also hard for me to wrap my mind around the idea that like Northwestern could Northwestern's, are they in second place? They're in second place right now, I think.
Yes, they're up on Indiana. Here's the thing.
Yes.
A couple things in my world of basketball in the last 48 hours of college basketball. First of all, I saw this today and I got scared. Before we did the show, I was watching a little bit of North Carolina State. I didn't know Teddy Valentine was still alive. He was officiating the ACC game between North Carolina and North Carolina State. So is he banned from the Big Ten? Did they finally ban him?
I mean, I'm not going to say I've watched a ton of the games this year, but I haven't seen them. So
no.
But you have to be pretty poor at your job to not get a Big Ten game because Big Ten officiating is.
Oh, I'll tell you, you know who I feel sorry for? I never thought I'd say this as an Indiana fan. I feel sorry for Zach Edey. Oh my God, Northwestern. Some of those guys should have been put away for 10 years. What they did to him. That's assault.
Well, and that's the thing. Like
that's assault.
These Big Ten games, you can like damn near punch a guy in the face when he's going up for a layup, and then they won't call it, and then a couple possessions later, they'll get you for hooking around a guy trying to get post position.
Did you watch the game yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. When Melendez missed the dunk and they called the foul on Hood Schifino, it's like he didn't smack him, he didn't shove him, and for some unknown reason, he put his hand up above on his back when he was going up for the dunk. He didn't do anything.
Yeah, I think by the end of the game, both teams had a pretty good list.
They did. No, I'm not.
Yeah, I know.
It was the officiating was.
We've had this conversation.
The Epps kid got knocked into the bleachers at one time. He went up for the layup.
Yeah, and again,
Bates. I think Bates is the one that thumped him pretty good that time. But
we've had this conversation on the show before. But the problem I have with it is that this is like supposedly your identity, but then you go into the NCAAs and try to play that.
They always get in foul trouble in the NCAA tournament. Why? Northwestern's going to play some directional school, and those two big kids inside, those two big bearded 6'11" behemoths that just pound the crap out of everybody, they're going to be on the bench in foul trouble because they're not going to have Bo Borowski or whoever the other officials are swallowing the whistle.
And you would think as a league, you would find some self-interest in preparing not hamstringing your teams come the biggest stage. You would think.
I found something out about Northwestern I didn't know, and explains a lot of where all of a sudden they've turned into a tough team. Okay. Didn't used to be. You know who one of their assistants is?
Isn't it Taylor Battle's one of their assistants, right? That's not who we're talking about.
Maybe. That's not who I'm talking about.
Okay.
And since his days at Carbondale, he's put on a few pounds.
Oh, Chris Lowry. Yeah. Oh my God. Yep.
Chris Lowry can't spell defense without two hands on you. Okay. When he was at Carbondale, physical. Then he went out to Kansas State and was an assistant with Weber. Physical. Okay. All of a sudden he's at Northwestern and they're physical.
Just to be clear, Taylor Battle is also an assistant there, but I didn't know who. Yeah, I saw Chris Lowry. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm getting a complete off the tangent. Do you know who an assistant coach for the Indiana Pacers is?
No, I have no idea about this.
Okay, Maurice Baker, who was the Madison coach up until 2 years ago, is now an assistant for the Indianapolis Pacers.
That's a kind of an interesting jump, isn't it? Like,
he was a great college player. Played at Oklahoma State, played somewhere else, played overseas in Europe. May have had a cup of coffees in the NBA even. Great player. Kind of moody as a coach, but yeah. And my understanding, I heard that when Madison has he comes back about 4 games a year. I was told he was on the bench when they beat T-Town.
Is that right?
I was told.
Interesting.
And I thought he's not an assistant there. And then I got on that World Wide Web and Maurice Baker, assistant for the Indianapolis Pacers or Indiana Pacers.
Well, I don't know. I think Illinois, they're going to get some mid.
Here's the thing with the Big Ten tournament. You want to be one of those 4 teams that doesn't play till Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you may not have a health. If you play that first day and get hot, you may not have anybody healthy enough to play by the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always a dogfight league, but especially this year, and the standings kind of bear it out too, right? Like just a muddle.
Some of the good things are Michigan's near the bottom half. So I'm going to go watch Indiana, Michigan in the season. we may do I may do on my podcast version. I may be sitting in Assembly Hall, Whitey, that day doing it on my phone.
Yeah. I mean, there's only like a handful of teams that just truly stink in this conference, but I'm starting to wonder how many of them are just really good either. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I understand exactly what you're saying. Rutgers has kind of fallen on hard times. What happened? They were getting like top 16 in the country consideration.
Yep.
And I thought Rutgers was the nastiest team. No, Northwestern is.
They're still trying to make that Chicago's Big Ten team thing happen too. They were wearing the Chicago flag uniforms this weekend. I saw. I don't know. I'd be curious to know what what's that?
Some of the big name Chicago players for that to happen.
Yeah, I mean they're trying.
Like Jeremy Fears is going to Michigan State. You got guys going all somebody. I don't know.
You make a little run here, I suppose. You just make yourself an interesting destination. So. And
Joe Lenardi's latest bracketology came out this morning. Guess who's not in the top 68?
Is North Carolina?
North Carolina.
They were preseason number 1, right?
Preseason number 1.
I wonder when's the last time that happened?
And Whitey, I read the other day, who's their big kid? Backcourt?
I
forget his name. They had a players only meeting, and the theme was because there's 3 or 4 of them that came back for another year. And their theme of their meeting was, we didn't come back for this. So, I'm a little disappointed. Guess who supposedly has said they will be entering the NBA draft at the end of the year?
Who's that?
Trace Jackson Davis. He actually has a COVID year if he wants to come back.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure there's a whole lot left for him to prove in college, as far as what he
could learn to stand there and shoot the 3 when people won't guard him out there. That's the only thing I think he needs to work on his game. His passing game is incredible.
I am a grudging admirer of his game. He just wears an ugly uniform. What are you going to do?
Christine, the cream and crimson.
All right. We're like, we've been going for a long time, and I'm starting to feel a little ill.
Purdue again, round 2. It'll be interesting.
I got to tell you, I'm not going to get into it, but I've read a lot of Greg Doyle columns lately where he's complaining about people storming the court against Purdue. If he doesn't like it,
teams will storm the court.
If he doesn't like it, if Purdue doesn't like it, then they should try winning those games. Then that's what
Greg Doyle sometimes I don't know.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan, but lately.
No.
Anyway, I'm sure he'll see this, we should try picking fights with some like big time columnists, get some attention for ourselves. Like we're not going to spend a lot of time taking local people to task, but maybe we should start picking fights with people that we should punch up a little bit,
These people complaining about Tiger Woods, come on. That was Whitey. That was hilarious. I'm sorry. That was hilarious. My daughter, who's a female golfer, thought it was hilarious.
All right. Are we done?
We're done.
I think we've probably.
I think we were done a minute ago.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, again, thanks to everyone who's done a good job of sharing that Crawford video around. But
I do have one last thing. Larry Wilson's book coming out. We'll talk more. We'll have him on a guest.
Yeah,
when we get closer to publication.
Yep, that'll be good.
It's being printed now.
Yep, I saw you showed me with the cover art. I really like that drawing. Cool. That's good stuff.
You're mentioned in the book, so that's probably will hurt sales.
Is that right? Well, that's nice. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. All right. Well, until
not by me. I wrote a prologue. I didn't mention you in my prologue.
Well, I mean, listen, I wouldn't expect it. I haven't done enough to get that.
I'm pretty sure you were mentioned.
Yeah, well, Larry, your dad's always been very gracious to me with compliments and
he likes you. I can't put my finger on it
yet. Anyway, yeah, be looking forward to that. And again, you know, if you're somebody who found us because you checked out that Crawford interview, go back in our archives a little bit because
there's some good ones.
Yeah, we've talked to a lot of prominent sports personalities from the area and
NBA players,
Major League Baseball players,
Division I coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. So
state champion golfers. We talked to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and those are interviews that hold up, stand the test of time, I think. And so check them out. That's my last plea to you. If you're still with us by now.
We do have loyal listeners though. They sit by their phone Sundays waiting on it to pop up that we posted a new one.
I know those people hold a special place in my heart. All right, let's call it a day, and we'll talk next week.
All right, see you, Waddy.
See ya.